Good evening, everyone. Are you just joining or you were waiting? As in, you had logged into 1X, but the thing wasn't open for you to join. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? It wasn't open. Okay, okay. Apologies. I do apologize. There are actually some technical difficulties. So apologies for that. All right, so this is the last day for grade 11. And by last day, meaning before the English exam, because that's next week. So what I'm gonna do today is to actually leave you to ask any questions pertaining to any section of the paper, paper two, specifically, what questions you might have, anything you're not sure about, tips, whatever. So who would like to start? Anyone? Any question pertaining to any topic or any section on paper two of the English exam? You can't be serious. So nobody has anything they want to ask. So you're all ready then. That's what I should assume. You are all set and ready to go and you're going to get a grade one. Yes? Okay, that's good. That's good. That is good. Alrighty then. Okay, so just to go over some things so you can just listen, and any questions you have, just raise your hand and um, acknowledge you and let you shoot your question. So as you know already, the CSEC English A exam, there are 3 papers that you're supposed to do. Paper one, the first one that you did would have been the SBA, which is done internally. So that is what would have made paper 3. And then come next week, you're gonna be sitting both papers 1 and 2. Paper 2 first, which will be done in the morning, and paper 1 in the afternoon. So paper 2 is actually 2 hours and 40 minutes, 12 or 2 hours and 30 minutes, somewhere thereabout. So you start at, you start at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock is the start time. I don't think that has changed. You start at 9, and whenever the 2 hours and 30 minutes ends, that's where your time ends. So for paper 2, this is where you have to do structured composition, right? And by composition, it is essay writing for the most part, or extended writing. Has 4 parts. Specifically, it's labeled as section A, section B, section C, and section D. Each section has a different area of focus, and each section has a recommended time in which meaning the time in which you're to spend to work on it, on that question, as well as the fact that each section has a specific word limit that you are to work on. All right, I'm going to share a link with you, which is for you to access a paper. And I'm going to try and give you the most recent paper, which is January 2022, paper 2. Um, hmm. Hold on a second. Right? But in the meantime, so the first section is summary writing. And by summary writing, we know that a summary is actually a shortened or condensed version of an original piece of writing, right? With that said, where the summary is concerned on the paper, it will tell you that you are supposed to actually list 5 main points that were discussed in the original piece, as well as write a summary of no more than 120 words. Now, what that means is your summary should not go over 120 and it shouldn't be less than 115 words. Now, just to do some quick recap, I'm trying to find the paper. Just to do a quick recap, as it pertains to summary writing. Please forgive me, I'm using my phone because my connection is weak and it's not strong enough to pick up on the computer. So I have to be working from my phone. But what I'm saying is, it is important to note that the summary section of the paper, it is not a joke thing. It is not a joke thing, and I say it is not a joke thing because oftentimes children actually underestimate summary and think that, oh, it's a walkover or whatever. To be honest, when they're marking the paper, section A is they're very strict. So certain things like lifting, heavy lifting, and by heavy lifting meaning you take the from the original piece word for word and you actually put it back in your summary. Now that cannot be a summary, no way at all, if you're going to put it back word for word as how it is given in the original piece. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to remember at all times that you actually, where summary writing is concerned, try to ensure that you use your own words as best as you possibly can. And by own words, it means you are actually paraphrasing. In other words, you are expressing the same thing, but you're using different words to express it. A summary is never to be considered as your feelings or your thoughts about. All right, I cannot find I cannot find the 2022 paper that I'm looking for. So I'm just going to use a 2020 or 2021 paper. So I'm going to post the link in the chat and I'm going to ask you to actually access the document from there. All right. So we're going to use this paper now as a guide, this July 2021 paper 2, which is actually, well, it would have been July because they pushed back the exam. Anyways, for this now, summary writing. So you get a chance to look at the paper and see what the paper is structured like if you have never seen a paper 2 before. So summary writing, where some say therefore means that. Here's the easiest way to go around this thing, right? Read each paragraph, ask the question, what is this paragraph talking about, or what is the author trying to say here? What am I trying to say? Once you do that, because some main ideas are explicitly stated, they are right there, while some it's implied. You understand? So you have to ask the question, what is he trying to say, or what is this talking about? Question says you are to actually, if you list 5 main points These 5 main points, you have to list them because they are a part of the 25 marks that is allotted to this question. Zine, if you don't have them, you lose 5 marks. And these points you must have because you must list them. They show you separately on the paper where they provide a writing space, and they have it. They have a 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't miss it as it is provided in the passage, or you can paraphrase it. Because by paraphrasing it, you know that's what you would actually put in the summary. Because it's the same 5 main points that you would have listed, you're going to use to write your summary. However, these are not just the points that you're using to write your summary. Even though they say you're to identify 5 main points, you should not take it to mean that the passage only has 5 main points. No. All right. So once you have identified 5 points from the passage, right? You list them, write them out, write out the 5 points. Zine, after you have done that, now you're going to write your summary. Use the 5 points that you have listed. However, these 5 points have to be paraphrased if you have not already paraphrased them. As the only time you put a word thing is if it's the name of something, which is very critical. Sorry about that. Avoid using cliches, avoid using figurative language. All I'm saying is if you see examples of these, if you see any usage of these in the original piece, don't write them back in the summary. All you do, as I said, clear cut, you can't go wrong. The 5 main points that you had, write them back. But paraphrase it. Use transitional words to link one idea to the next and include other main ideas that you would have actually come across. Zine, and that will help you to come up with the 120 words or at least 115 words. Your summary should not be less than 115 and it should not be over 120. And importantly, your summary must be written in 1 paragraph only, not more than a paragraph. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, Kimon.
Miss, one of the teachers said that them not really count them, them just count much the first line and then them just.
Listen, no, let me tell you the truth, because was it last year or year before? Not last year. They actually counted the words. They made us count the words for the summary. Right? How do you know now? So you know to be on the safe side. Either you're gonna sit down and you to be sure, because what you want to do at the end of the word count in bracket. So if you count and you get 1 word, and you need to count 2 to ensure that you have the right amount of words. Now, if you write a summary and you count the words and you find that you have 110 words, something is wrong. Something else needs to be added. The summary, and by adding something else, I don't mean your opinion or how you feel or saying anything like this is what the author is saying, whatever. All you're doing is taking the main idea, just like when you watch a movie or you watch football and you tell your brethren how the game did go. That's basically summary. You highlight, or when you're watching the highlights of a game, the man highlight only the main features of the game. When you watch a movie, you only highlight the main part of the movie, the things that stood out. So it's the same with the summary. You're only identifying the main ideas and you're using those to compose your summary. Now, it would be good if you can actually reorder some of the points. What do I mean by this? So you see, if when you listed the 5 main points, you would have identified them based on the order in the paragraphs they appear. Don't skip on a paragraph. Zine, Now, when you're writing the summary, you don't have to rewrite those in the same order. Of course, you must start off with what it was started off with first, but you can rearrange the order of some of the points. Do whatever came second, you can put it third. But ensure that how you reposition it in your summary, it is logically connected to everything else that you're writing, because your summary should not actually sound far-fetched. There should be no gaps in there. And as I have said to you, your summary should not actually, it shouldn't have your opinion on anything. It should not include any use of statistics. Even if you see statistics in the original piece, don't write no statistics. Sorry about that, I had to take care of something. All right, so don't use any don't rewrite the statistics. Don't write any repetition. If you see use of, and by statistics, you know it's numbers. So if they say in January 2016, 16 out of 30 persons did whatever, don't do that. Don't write back that statistic. Just say over time, a great amount of people, or there was an increase in the amount of persons who actually, whatever it's saying, you know, just an example. I don't know, I'll know my document can't open. I don't know why. All right. And yeah, your summary must be written in one paragraph only. No more than one paragraph. There is no conclusion in the summary. The summary is just one paragraph only. There is no introduction paragraph. There is no supporting details. There is no body paragraphs, no concluding paragraph. It's just one dege paragraph. Just one dege paragraph. That is it. That's all. I hate the fact that my connection is so poor. I can't even get to show you an example of a summary. All right. So there's no conclusion, nothing like that. Nothing like that. All right. Let me see if I can point you to where can I give you an example?
Yes.
Yes.
Were you referring to the message I sent in the chat?
Yeah.
No, Miss, I was asking like the passage itself, and you have the 5 paragraphs. Them I'm talking like the last paragraph that have main points.
Mm-hmm.
The last paragraph have main points.
The concluding paragraph, no, the concluding paragraph always sums up the general essay, the essay on a whole. So no.
So we don't have to read that one. Just leave it already.
Read it still, because in reading it, it helps you to get an idea really what the thing it generally is talking about. But none of your main ideas would come from the concluding paragraph.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's look at this paper now, for instance. Section A, the summary. Notice it says that your suggested time is 40 minutes, right? It says, read the following article on celebrity relationships carefully and list 5 main points discussed, right? It never, so you see, it tell you, and then write a summary of the article in not more than 120 words. And it tells you if the word limit is exceeded, meaning if you go over it, only the first 120 words are gonna mark. So you want to ensure that, and they count every word, the is, the that, the 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 in, they count those, they are words. So they are counted, right? It says your summary must include the 5 main points identified and other relevant points. So you see, it's not just the 5 points that you have listed. but other points that you come across that is relevant to what so this is talking about celebrity relationships. The title for one supposed to tell you, give you an idea as to what you're looking for. All right, it's good to read the instructions. It says identify the main ideas and opinions in the extract. This is how you're going to be marked. How well you organize and express these ideas and opinions in your own words, and the use of appropriate grammar, sentence structure, vocab, spelling, and punctuation. So let's look at it. The need to belong in a natural aspect of a natural aspect of human development, forming the building blocks for our relationships, our families, and communities. The long-term effects of interaction with these familiar persons allows us to deepen connections and develop intimate understanding of each other. Such understanding is intimate because we care about, respond to, and understand each other. In time, we surround ourselves with a community of people, and we manage our connections with these people who share our lives by adopting different roles. Partner, child, aunt, neighbor, employer, for instance. We trust them because we have shared experiences. We have reached a point where we know who and what they are. They know us, and we are comfortable in their company. So this has 1, 2, 3, only four paragraphs. Please note that a paragraph can hold more than one main ideas, but it's good for you to read and see what's the point that it's trying to convey. What is the main idea in the first paragraph? Anybody?
The impact of interacting with your family can help you understand each other.
What about the very first sentence? The need to belong is a natural aspect of human development. Full stop. That is what you need to start off with. The need to belong, because this has to do with relationships. So that's one. All right. Let's see if we can find anything else. So you said the impact. Read it for me.
The effect of interacting with your family can help you to understand each other.
The long-term effect. Okay. The long-term effect of interaction with these familiar persons allows us to deepen connection and develop. Okay, so long-term effects of interaction allows for connection and intimacy. Connection and understanding. All right. Yeah, that's one. Such understanding, that's not one. In time, we surround ourselves with a community of people, and we manage our connections with these people who share our lives by adopting different rules. All right, so we find two there. Any other in that one?
This other is quite supporting details.
Right, good. Okay, now let's go to the second paragraph. There is a marked difference between the intimacy described above, the type of relationships we have with celebrities. The explosion of the internet and cable TV has created a difference in the way we understand people. We are now exposed to the celebrity in different stages. The difference is that there is no give and take or growth in such relationships. The celebrities remain fragments of our imagination, beings whose lives seem exciting and glamorous, who awaken our curiosity, feed off the attention we give, and use it as currency to aid in accumulating fame and fortune. What is the main idea or ideas in that paragraph? Anybody?
This will be about like the second sentence thereabout.
The second sentence. All right, wouldn't you say that there's a difference between intimacy and the idea here is that there's a difference between the relationship we share with friends and loved ones, and that of the relationship we have with celebrities. That's a main idea. Class full tonight, Joshua. All right. That's a main idea. The fact that, because what the first sentence is saying is that there's a difference between intimate relationship, and the relationship we have with celebrities. It explains of the difference. Let's look at, all right. So I don't want to go any further because but I just wanted to give you an idea how you actually go about it. And then you would list these. You can list them word for word. You notice, for example, the second one, the third one rather, in the second paragraph, you would have to do some tweaking to it. And so that's why it's good if you paraphrase it. It's up to you if you want to write it when you're listing the main ideas. You want to write it word for word, right? Or word for word, as in same as how it is produced right there in the extract. Or you want to underline. Oh yeah, so yeah, I forgot to tell you. While you're reading and you're identifying the main ideas, underline them so that it's easy for you. Underline it and put a number at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Identify as many as possible main ideas or points being discussed pertaining to the general topic, right? However, they want you to list 5. Let's say the passage has 7 or 6. They only want you to list 5. Those 5 that you're writing, because if you look at the same document I sent to you in the chat, they tell you that the rule pages, this is where you're to write the main points. And it says list. So of course, you're going to put them in numerical order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're writing them as sentences, however, just as how they were given to you in the extract. You can write them word for word there. They won't penalize you right there for that, right? Please understand that. However, when you're going to write the summary, there's a separate ruled page which says write your summary here in no more than 1 paragraph. On that ruled page, that's where now you're going to use the information that you have identified from the extract, the main ideas. You're going to actually put them together to create a summary in no more than 120 words. All you're using are the main ideas. You're not providing any supporting details. So therefore, you're not supposed to have no explanation. You're not supposed to have no examples, nothing like that. Zine, it's just the main ideas you're using to create your summary. The 5 that you would have listed plus others that you would have come across in the extract, right? However, you have to paraphrase this information, right? Use up your synonyms as best as you can and try to not repeat any word. Like the simple is, the, fine, but use up your synonyms. Find different words to say one thing if you see. And like relationship, find a different word for saying relationship. Right? If you start off with talking about relationship, using relationship in the first sentence, when you're going to mention about relationship again, right? And remember, it's use connectors. Connectors is the same as transitional words, connecting one idea to the next. And what I had said to you earlier, try to rearrange the order. So you see, just as how we identified those 3 just now in the order because of the paragraph, how they appear in the different paragraphs, you can switch it around. But make sure how you switch it around, how you switch it around, make sure it works within the paragraph, the summary that you're now writing. Meaning to say, it should be logically presented. It should flow. Come in order just for the sake of reordering it, but it must make sense. It must flow. It's not supposed to be confusing. So when you're finished now and you read your summary, it's supposed to give you the same vibes like what you get from reading the original one. put your word count at the end of the paragraph. I keep stressing on these things because it's important. Put your word count. You can count all the words that you have used. If you find that you've gone over 120, take out, omit something, but make sure you not omit something where relevant. Okay. If you find that you have less than 115, try to be within range, 115 to 120 words, nothing less than 115, nothing over 120, where your summary is concerned. And as best as possible, paraphrase. All right. Any questions before I move on?
Miss, I don't understand the part you say about the supporting details, Miss. How like when you write the main points, Miss, how we go like push it out, make it reach 120.
Oh, yeah. How are you going to do what? I didn't. You were breaking up.
Miss, I'm saying that Miss, the supporting details one, Miss. I'm asking how with the main points, and how are we going to expand it a little to make it reach at least 120?
All right. Remember now, supporting details come in the form of evidence and example. You hearing me? Supporting details come in the form of evidence and example. And when you're writing a summary, you don't need any evidence nor examples. That's all I'm saying, which is basically supporting details. So it's just your main ideas that you are using, right? If you're writing the summary of a novel that you have read, if you're doing literature now or you have done literature before, you would have been taught to write the summary to include evidence and supporting details, examples of what you mean to support the point you're making. However, this time around, it's different. You're not using any, hold on. You're not using any evidence, no examples. That is why I say you're going to go through and you're going to omit. So even if the main idea you have identified has examples, so if you see words like such as, for instance, or like, those are evidences or examples, right? They are used to strengthen the point. All I'm saying is for the summary is just the main ideas you focus on, the 5 where you list, in addition to others that you'd have come across. Use connectors, connecting words and phrases to link one main idea to the next to create your one paragraph for your summary. And you can't go wrong. Don't stress yourself. All right. Any other questions pertaining to summary before I move on? All right. Guess not. Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, Miss.
Yes,
All right.
miss.
Okay, so now so that's summary writing. I hope I haven't forgotten any. I've touched on all the key things. Yeah. So section B now. Suggested time is 30 minutes. So for this section, they actually tell you, they give you a situation or a scenario. And what they basically want you to do is reproduce the information that they have given you using a correct format to present that information in. So for example, what we're seeing here now on the page, in the past paper, somebody copy and paste the link in the chat for me so that the others can access the paper, please. Now with this, it says you are to write the email. Now, please bear in mind that for section B, the questions vary. They can tell you to write an email. They can tell you to write a letter. They can tell you to write a notice. They can tell you to write a memo, or they can tell you to write a report. Please note that in the event that you are asked to write a report can come in different formats. A report can be submitted in different formats. You can write a report in the form of a letter. You can write a report in the form of an email. You can write a report in the form of a memo, or you can even just write a report, like a book report, for instance. You can just write that in the regular 5 essay structure with just the title. in a techno specific structure. Zine? So you have to look carefully. So two things. What should help you? If they don't tell you the specific format that you're writing, meaning if they don't tell you to write a letter, or if they don't tell you to write an email, look carefully. If they just tell you to write a report, for instance, look carefully at the information that they supply you with in the situation. So if they give you the name of a place as well as the address, you know it's a letter. And again, it depends on who you're writing the letter to. So if it's someone with a in higher authority, you know it's a letter. And especially if it's someone who is outside of Yandemana Quabs, Yandemana size, somebody in a high ranking, then put it that way. A letter, of course, would have to be written, right? Unless they say to write an email, that's different. But if they tell you, if they leave it up to you to write, to choose the correct format, look carefully at the information that they have provided you with. Zine, now, what I want for you to note again pertaining to this section. You are given the situation and all you're doing is mimicking. You're taking what they have given you and you're just putting it back. Right? That's all you're doing. However, they want to see how well you express yourself, how well you convey information, how well you consider your audience. You understand? So this, for example, you are writing to someone in high power, but they said that you're to send an email to this person. Not high power, in high ranking, but they said you're to send an email, fine. Even so, you see how they have the bullets listed here, the bullet points listed here? He wants the following information. Don't you dare write in your response. Don't you dare use bullet points in your response. Don't. Notice it says your writing must be in continuous prose. Continuous prose means paragraphs. So at no point should you have any bullet points, any listing in any of your writing. The only part on the paper you're listing is for when you identify the main ideas, you're listing those differently. Now, where section B is concerned, if you see they give you information like this and they're bullet points, do not. And these bullet points are relevant to what to the response you're supposed to produce. Don't put them in bullet points. Do not put them in bullet points. Everything must be in paragraphs. And everything can't be, you're writing to find out different information. Everything cannot be in just one paragraph. That's absurd. That's ridiculous. Right? So let's say this is an email. So he says he's to write an email. I remember when I marked, because this is a section I marked last year when I was marking. A lot of students, and I'm not saying it's Jamaicans because remember it's Caribbean based, but quite a few students misinterpreted the instructions, right? It says write the email using the information given. Make sure to include all the relevant details. It therefore means you, as the student, you are pretending to be John Mason, the 16-year-old who wants to contact Mr. David to find out how to go about getting his license. You know what some students did? Some students write like a story. John Mason, a 16-year-old they wrote it back exactly like this. John Mason, a 16-year-old wants to know what to do to get his license. So, you know, they would not have gotten any marks or much of anything for that. Some persons actually wrote pretending that they are Mr. Davy and wrote to John Mason telling him all the things that are listed in bullet points here, answering the question. That's definitely wrong. You not answer the question. You not answer the question, so that person would have gotten no marks at all. The one who write it back said John Mason, a 16-year-old wants to know that, but I'm not so bad. But when you're going to write and do something completely the opposite of what the instruction says, you can't get any marks. So listen carefully, guys. All you're doing is reproducing the information they have given to you. Don't be tricked. Read carefully. Reading is fundamental. Read carefully, right? Pay attention to the information they provide you with. Read the instructions, look at it. They tell you what they're marking you for, so you can't miss. The only thing you might get marked down for a spelling, probably an expression. But in terms of the content, you're not supposed to miss. So email now, we're supposed to see the general structure of the email, the correct format of the email to, and you write out the person. So, well, you should have from first. From johnmason@gmail.com to kennethdavi@trafficdepartment.com. You know, date, you put the date and you put subject. Subject is just a title. So inquiry about what do you say? Inquiry about obtaining a driver's license. That's a subject line. Your subject line is basically like the title of what you are writing. It's not supposed to be a sentence. It's not supposed to be long. You're not supposed to explain. It's not supposed to be a question. It's just like a phrase, just like a title of something. So inquiring about obtaining a driver's license, that would have sufficed for this as a subject line. And then you skip a line, just as how you see, or you send email, and you have to you can't use any real bad man at Yahoo. No, John Mason, and then for the recipient, Kenneth Davy or K Davy at trafficdepartment.tobago.org is fine. Or just Kenny. And what I did there, I used a domain which is significant to the traffic department, as opposed to just writing kennethdavy@gmail.com. You understand? Any questions? Because that was a mouthful. Any questions before I move before I continue?
No, miss.
All right. So you start off. The first paragraph, despite it being an email, the first paragraph is where you're going to actually establish your reason for writing. I need to identify yourself. You need to establish the fact, say you're talking to somebody, you know, and fact that this person, someone authority. So good day, my name is Jason, I'm a relentless 16-year-old obtaining a driver's license. My attempts were futile, and so I decided to send you an email sorry about that. You're going to go now to your next paragraph, and in going to your next paragraph, somebody please send me back the link in the chat. Post back the link for me, please. You're going to go into your next paragraph, sorry. And in going into your next paragraph, what you're going to do next, thank you, is you're going to go in details now. And first, it says the minimums are taken and the cost for driver's license. I want you to understand, students, that even though it's given in this order, you don't have to query it in this order, right? Another thing I should have said in the introduction, it says the head of the traffic department. So you said, good morning, Mr. Davy, comma. My name is John Mason, a relentless 16-year-old who has made several attempts to contact you, the head of the traffic department of Royal Street Tobago Police Force, but was not successful. I am inquiring how to go about obtaining my driver's license and would like for you to provide me with such information. That are your first paragraph, establishing your reason for writing. Go now to your next paragraph. As I was saying here, even though the first point here says the minimum age to acquire a driver's license, you don't have to, that doesn't have to be the first thing you're asking. Rearrange the thing, because what they want to see is students, they want to see how well you process things. They want to see how well you actually pay attention to certain details and reproduce information, but reproducing it logically, right? If you should put it back word for word and word for word, as well as in the same order, you won't get much marks. So don't put it back word for word. Paraphrase the information as well. So you can say, firstly, I am aware that a test is to be taken. Please inform me as to the type of test, if it's both theory and practical, as well as the cost. So even though it's not there, you're adding this information because you want to know something you don't know and you want to know. So you put every single thing in there. So if it's a test, you're not going to say, your paragraph shouldn't say, please tell me, sir, the minimum age to acquire a driver's license, comma, the test which must be taken, comma, the length of time it takes to get the license after passing the test, comma, the days the tests are taken, and finally the cost for the driver's license, full stop. And then you close off. I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, John Mason. And it done. No, you can't, you're not gonna get much of anything there because you haven't done much with the information. So as a good student now, after you establish your reason for writing, you go into the next paragraph now and you start asking the questions. Firstly, I would like to know, or you say, firstly, I am aware that a test is to be done. However, I am not sure if it's a practical or theory. Please advise me as to which test I am required to do, as well as the days in which these tests are done and the cost affixed to taking such tests, right? In addition, after completing the test and I am successful, is there a wait period in the time that I would receive my driver's license? If so, when? Furthermore, what is the minimum age to acquire a driver's license? I know that before obtaining a driver's license, I must first apply for a learner's license. I will soon be 17. Will that age, does that age make me legible? You understand? So you're asking all the relevant questions. And lastly, what is the cost for obtaining a driver's license? Or you just say, how much will I have? What are all the fees that I will have to pay for acquiring a driver's license? And you're done. Close off to say, I look forward to hearing from you. I may be contacted at, or you say, please, I look forward to I look forward to hearing from you. I may be contacted via email, and you put your email address. And then you close off. Sincerely, comma, and you put your name. Well, not your name, but the person's name, John Mason, full stop. And that's it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Right? So you have to just ensure that you use the correct format, students, and the information they give to you, paraphrase it, reproduce the information in the correct format. That's all this section requires you to do. Now, if it's a report and it's a letter, please understand that not every letter requires you. It's a formal letter, but even so, you have some letters that you don't need to have 2 addresses. 1 address is fine. And that address definitely has to be the receiver's address. It cannot be your address. You're not writing to yourself. Because remember now, the formal letter has 2 addresses, yours and the recipient. So if you, let's say this was a letter that you were to write to Kenneth David, Zine, and let's say we're not using your address, you would have to have the date, and the date has to be the date in which you're writing the letter. Then you skip a line and you write Kenneth Davy, comma, Kenneth Davy, next line, head of traffic department, comma, next line, Royal Street, Tobago Police Force. And then you put the address, Royal Street, PO 74. Dear Mr. Davy. So you can say Dear Mr. Davy because you know the name of your recipient. And your first paragraph, always in anything you're writing, your first paragraph is to establish your reason for writing without saying, I am writing. And please, don't say, I am writing this email to you. Don't say, I am writing this letter. Duh. It is obvious that it's a letter. It is obvious that you're writing. Duh. It's obvious that it's an email. It's obvious you're writing. So don't speak the obvious. You can use other ways. You can simply say, I am using this medium to inquire how to go about obtaining my driver's license. I tried contacting your office, but my attempts were futile. So I decided to send an email, right? Or you can say, I decided to use the email address obtained on the website to contact you, the head of the traffic department. You see how many ways you can say that? So don't talk about, I am writing this email, or dear Mr. Kenneth Davy, I am writing to you. No. Make it things sound sophisticated. You understand? Pay attention to punctuation as well as spelling, all right? And don't leave out anything. All that they give you and tell you that you're to put in there. And sometimes you find that you might have to add certain things, but make sure where you add, it's relevant to what you're talking about, because they say you're going to be marked for your format, the selection of relevant and complete information. So you can include other things, even if it wasn't mentioned there, but try not to include anything irrelevant. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, notice down here, it says you'll be marked for how you organize and express the information. That's very important. Look at the thing. This is basically the rubric, you know. This is how they mark you. This is what they mark you for, right? The organization. So again, don't write back the thing exactly how they in the same order. Reorder it, but make sure you're in reordering it. It's still it's logical and it makes sense same way, right? If you notice, I did not start off by asking them about the age to acquire the driver's license. I did not start off there, right? Any questions before I move on?
Miss, so it's a continuous prose, Miss. What that mean again, Miss?
Paragraph, in paragraphs.
Okay.
The only section on your paper that is to be written in one paragraph is the summary. Everything else must have more than one paragraphs. Yes, so continuous prose means paragraphs. You should not have any bulletin, no point, format, nothing like that in your writing, in any of your writing. No listing, nothing like that. All right, any questions? Any questions pertaining to section?
Miss, you can indent it down.
Indentation is indication of a paragraph. Yes. Don't skip any lines. Indent to show you that a new paragraph begins. Don't skip any lines in the body of anything. Right? Don't skip any lines to show that a paragraph is starting, but rather indent. Okay? Any
Yes, miss.
questions?
Excuse me, miss. In the suppose if you're writing like an essay and then there was only one line at the bottom, should you still indent and start the paragraph in that one last line?
Yeah, because it's a paragraph. You're going to continue over to the next page. Yeah.
Okay.
Only
Alright,
like
miss.
in a letter though. If you're writing, let's say you're writing a letter and that's the last line of the letter. That's the last line on the page and you're finished with the body of the letter and you need to write your complimentary closing and your signature. Do not jack it up in that last line.
Excuse me, miss,
Instead,
but
hold on. Instead, what you would do, the last sentence, if you see you're running out of line space and you're finished with the letter, the last sentence in the last paragraph, the last sentence that you would have written, strike it out and carry it over to the next page. And then you skip a line and write your complimentary closing and your signature. You understand?
yes, miss. So in the suppose if we had to write an article, right? So must the article be in the essay format?
Yes, just as how you see it in the newspaper. That section is going to tell you that your writing must be in continuous prose. Continuous prose means essay format. And for an article, the article must have a heading, which is a title. There must be a writer, a headline, and a byline. So the headline is the title. The byline is the name of the author and the date in which it was written. The article is being written. And the article, remember now, article, it depends. It can be, I doubt they will give you, it's section B is mainly expository, so they won't give you a persuasive piece to write if it's an article. It's expository writing. The article is informative writing. So you know you have to, you're not supposed to give your opinion, but rather you're presenting the facts on a particular, whatever topic they tell you to write about. And by presenting facts, it means that you're in whatever point you make, you must have evidence, sources. And by sources, things that can be proven. So are they going to use statistics? Are they going to use a quote? Are they going to use some experience? You call it an anecdote, some experience from somebody, something, or you can use questions or you provide examples. But it's informative writing. All of this section B, informative writing. So therefore, it must not have your opinion. It should not be one-sided. It should not side at all, nothing take. It must be strictly subjective, shouldn't be objective. You shouldn't have take any side. You're not supposed to state your opinion or nothing on that. You're not supposed to say, I believe, or I am of the view, nothing like that. It's informative writing. Bear in mind, you have an audience and you are helping them to become aware of something. Understand?
Yes, miss. So about how much marks will be taken off if you didn't have the heading properly for writing an article?
They don't really mark it like that per se, because how the rubric is set up, it's 10 for content, 10 for organization, 10 for expression. You see that thing right here, format of the email, relevant and complete info, organization and expression of info. Those three things are a part of the content. So let me try and remember. They mark for relevancy, they mark for accuracy and conciseness / completeness. They mark for format. So I don't remember the breakdown of the scores though, but that's content. And then,
because reason being, I did a history exam today, and as you spoke about the heading, the title, I forgot to put the title, as in the author. And
look here, may I tell you the truth. You see, with certain subjects, they're not so strict where certain things are concerned. But you see, like English, definitely. So don't be hard on yourself. That you already did that exam, it done and gone, you can't do nothing about it. Just know that going forward, if you see something like that again, try to remember to put it. All right?
Yes, yes.
Mhm. Any other questions pertaining to section B before I move on to section C, and so that I can get to go to my bed? I have work in the morning and you guys have exams or you need to sleep. Any questions pertaining to section B? So remember now, section B, it's informative writing. So anything you're given to write, whether it's a letter, a memo, a notice, an article, email, whatever format, the information has to come off as informative. It should not have any opinion. You're reproducing whatever they have given you in the situation. Remember, it has to be written in more than one paragraph, and there's to be no listing. Even if they give you a listing in the situation, don't put it that way. Don't write back the thing word for word. Paraphrase the information, switch it up a bit, rearrange the order and how them give it to you in reproducing the thing, and you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Read carefully and pay attention to what the details they've provided you with. All right, now section C. Section C is the only section on the paper that gives you a choice, gives you an option. You choose between a worded prompt or a picture prompt. Now, let me tell you this straight up. You see, if you don't understand what is happening in the picture, do not, I repeat, do not choose the picture, right? When they tell you to write a story based on the picture, it means that you are to provide a description of exactly what the picture is depicting and put that in your story. It's a description. So you must have a descriptive paragraph, and that paragraph can be like 3 to 4 sentences. That description must be centered around every single thing that is highlighted in the picture. It therefore means you're going to use a descriptive word, use up your figurative language to bring the picture to life. Anything you put in the story from start leading up to the point where you include the description of the picture, it must be connected, it must be linked. Give your story a title. Ensure that there is a conflict in your story. Ensure that you resolve that conflict in your story. Ensure that you use dialogue in the story, but your story should not be heavily based on dialogue. Ensure the story is told from a particular perspective, whether it's first person only. Say if a first person, are you tell the story. If it's third person, somebody else will tell the story. It's either the person that tell the story know a lot, down to everything about even how the characters in the story think, or they know limited information about the characters in the story. Your story must have, you basically, hear me I tell you, the easiest thing to do, go into that exam with a story already in mind. All you need to do is when you see the paper and you choose the picture or the sentence prompt, just know, say, you're going to tweak the story that you already have in mind to suit that of the prompt that you would have chosen in the exam. You can't go wrong. Please do not go in there and write a story based on a movie where you watch. You don't know who is marking your paper. Everybody watch Netflix. Everybody watch this and that. So the examiner might either hate the movie the way you go write about, or like the movie and know it very much to the T, say, is a movie you copy this from. Your story has to be an original, and you're using the prompt given as the support, the foundation on which you're building your story on. Right? So the easiest thing for do, plan out your story. Don't take more than 5 minutes. Who are your characters? What are the conflicts? How will it be solved? What is the setting? You understand? How the story get in generally. Right? Start off your story by introducing your character, and don't just tell me, say, once upon a time there's a boy. Find an interesting way to start the story. Right? Memories don't live like people do. This saying didn't mean anything to John until after a couple of years, he started to understand the true meaning of it. Start interestingly, and then you go into your story. Tell us about John. Who is John? Describe John, but don't tell me, say John Black. Tell me, say John is as cool as a cucumber, even though he has midnight black skin, even though his complexion is like the midnight, sky. You know, don't tell me, say him tall. Tell me, say whenever him go through the door, he has to bend in order to get out. Or use a simile. He's as tall as the light post. He's as tall as Mount Everest. You understand? Use up in your story, make use of figures of speech, simile, metaphor, personification. Simile, metaphor, and imagery bring the characters to life, as well as hyperbole, exaggerate. She was as beautiful as a flower. Exaggerate. Or she's the most beautiful girl you would have ever seen. The doctors described her as the most beautiful baby you'd have ever seen being born. Exaggerate. For your setting, use up your personification, as well as use your sound devices, alliteration, onomatopoeia. Bring the setting to life. Your setting can be real, but make it fictional. Or vice versa. It's fictional, but make it real. Your story should not be less than 400 words. Should not be less than 400 words. Your story must not be in one paragraph. Whenever you use dialogue, remember you put quotation marks on the exact words that the person would have said. And then outside of the quotation marks, you write who said the words. Each time you're writing dialogue, you indent. Each time it's a new speaker, you indent. Two different speakers should not be in the same line. So if you said, Tom said, Billy boy, let's make some money. You should not have in the same line. Yeah, sure, John. Let's make some money. That should not be in the same line because it's two different speakers. Each speaker is supposed to be placed in a separate line. Do not skip any lines, but you indent. All right. Each time as the setting changes, a new paragraph starts. Each time a new event comes in, a new paragraph must begin. Now the sentence prompt. You see, same as how you see these sentences on the page here. Kate stepped into the room and everyone immediately began to cheer. She knew this was the greatest feeling that she would ever experience. You are not to include anything in between these sentences. You're not to erase anything from these sentences. The same way how they give it to you right here on the page, you're basically lifting it up and putting it somewhere in your story. So therefore, if you're going to start to use the prompt, the sentence prompt, it must begin, the first sentence must begin with Kate stepped into the room. And the last thing you must have is experience and a full stop there. You're not going to include anything in between. You're not going to separate it. You're not going to omit anything. Same way how they give it to you, you put it back in the story and you continue your story. Now the instruction says write a story which includes these sentences. Now the word include gives you an advantage. You choose where in your story you want to put it, either at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end. And remember your word limit, right? If you don't understand what the picture is saying, and if you cannot manage to create a description of the picture to put in your story, leave it alone and use the sentences. You have a choice. Whatever you start, let's say you're using the sentences, whatever, and you decide you're going to put it somewhere later down in the story, however you started out your story, that storyline must be linked to whatever the prompt is saying in this worded set, the sentence prompt that they have given you. What I am simply saying is the events should not be far apart. There should not be any gaps in your story. Any questions?
No, miss.
Huh?
No questions, miss.
All right. Now the last section of the paper, section D, which is persuasive or argumentative. Now let me tell you here and from here, no. Your word limit is 250 to 300 words. Please note that for this section, it's either persuasive or argumentative. How do you know if it's argumentative or persuasive?
Argumentative says about views and persuasive is supporting or opposing.
Miss?
All right. Oh, wow. Everybody left? Man. All right. What I want to say to you guys is, I'm sorry I didn't get to tell everyone else. I lost connection for a few minutes. I wish that they had actually stuck out. You see, for the exam paper 2, do not start from section A. Start from section D and make your way to the front. Reason being, sections C and D, they have the longest pieces of writing. And you want to ensure that you get the longer pieces of writing out of the way, right? So that you can lock in maximum points. Even though the maximum, the one that has maximum points on the paper is section D. But do not start your exam on from section A, then don't go in that order. Take my foolish advice. A lot of times students start from section A, they face challenges with the summary and time run out and they have to be rushing to write a good enough story or a good enough argumentative essay, and they still don't even get to write much of anything to get much marks. So take my foolish advice and start from the back of the paper. Start from the last section, and you have nothing to worry about because every section has a set of ruled lines. Every section is given a set of ruled lines, so you can't even mix up anything. And if you run out of space, they have extra space and everything is labeled. Extra pages at the back. Right? But start from the back, start from section D and work your way to the front. So D, C, B, and A, or do C first, then you do D, then you do B, and leave A for last. But don't start with the summary first. Understand? Yes, Roger.
I'm actually miss, how long will the exam be?
Huh?
How long is the exam? Like 2 hours and 30 minutes?
The exam is 2 hours and 30 minutes, yes.
Wow.
2 hours and 30 minutes. And trust me, time does fly. So you might sit there and you think that whatever, so do not spend time on the summary. That's why I'm telling you, don't start with the summary. Start from section D or the first section you go to. Once the examiner say you may begin, pass section A and B and go to section C, then you and write the story. Then you go to section D and write the essay. Then you can do section B and leave section A for last. But do not start with section A, right? Don't start with section A because a lot of times students spend time doing section A and time run out and then them not get to finish the exam. And they would not have gotten enough marks because they did not produce enough as a response for the other sections. Take my foolish advice. Might sound foolish, but trust me, you can't go wrong. Start from section D, then move on to C, then B. So do the paper in reverse. Don't do it in the order that it is set up. And as I've said, every section has separate ruled pages, so you can't go wrong. For section C, if you choose question 3, put it in the box at the top. For section C, same way, if it's question 4 is the one with the sentence. If the sentence you choose, put the number in the box. The paper is in numerical order, even though there are 4 different sections. So section A, question 1 is summary. Section B, question 2. Section C, you have questions 3 and 4, the picture and the sentence prompt respectively, and section 5 is the essay. Now, what I was saying to you, for your persuasive or argumentative essay, it is in the instructions that you know if it's a persuasive essay or an argumentative essay you are to write. The persuasive and argumentative essay are somewhat the same, but they're actually different. Now, the persuasive essay requires you to take a side, to express your views, your opinion on something, to convince somebody why they must share the same view, this view, right? The argumentative essay, on the other hand, it's nothing like that. All you're doing is providing a justification of arguments why this is so or why this is not so. Now, in the instructions, they give you a statement. For example, an increase in crime in youths is as a result of poor parenting. That's the statement they provide you with. And it says, write an essay in which you give your views on the statement. Readily, the word views tells you that you are supposed to write an argumentative essay. You're not taking any sides. The instructions did not say write an essay in which you agree or disagree with the statement. If the instruction says agree or disagree, definitely it's a persuasive essay. Now, the difference, so that's the thing. It's been a while since they have given persuasive. It's mainly argumentative. And by argumentative, it therefore means you must have what we call a counter argument. It's the same 5-paragraph structure that you're to take, right? Your introduction paragraph, do not start your introduction paragraph with your thesis statement. In other words, don't start your introduction paragraph by saying an increase in crime in youth is as a result of poor parenting. Don't start your essay with your thesis statement. Your thesis statement always comes at the end of your introduction paragraph. But what you can do is to have a hook. A hook is something that grabs the attention of your reader. The easiest hook you could ever have or use is a rhetorical question. And remember, no, don't answer the question. I mean, you have question and answer as a technique, but if you're asking a rhetorical question, you don't answer it. So if you say, which is the question of rhetoric, that in other words, it's called rhetoric, right? If you're using a rhetoric, do not answer it. So you start off your essay in the introduction paragraph with a hook, the hook being a question. For example, did you know that 1 in every 8 youth who end up in criminal activities come from a broken home or they are raised by a single parent? And that's the question, that's your hook. That hook actually gives your readers an idea as to where you're going with your essay. Next thing you want to do is provide local background, give local context on what you're talking about. Let them understand where you really are go with this about crime in youth. What you mean by crime in youth? What you mean by youth and criminal activities and poor parenting? So what you can do next is provide your background information. Use statistics. You know, and if it's statistics, provide the source. Where is who say? So don't just say 65% of youths, whatever. Provide a source who said that. According to Stat in Jamaica, 60% of youths who drop out of school end up participating in crime, and as a result, crime among youth or crime in youth has become popular. Many of these parents are either this, have the child young, or they are a single parent, so therefore there is not much stability in the home. Crime in youth, so that's your background information. Next thing, you're going to provide your thesis now. For your argumentative essay, your thesis is just a general sentence. Simply say crime in youth, says you basically putting back the statement that they have given you. Simple. Crime in youth is as a result of poor parenting. And then you provide your 3 reasons why. In that still your introduction. Now it's important for you to provide your 3 reasons because it helps you to know where you're going. All right? Now, what I should have started off with first is planning. Once you reach section, if you start section, you're starting with your exam by doing section B of the paper first. Once you see the question, the statement, plan. How do you plan? Draw one table. On the left side, you have the pros. On the right side, you have the cons. Same as if it's persuasive, you have agree and you have disagree. Do not leave yourself to just, because you see the statement, you can say, all right, maybe just write in favor of it. Or, all right, maybe just write the views for sure why this don't make no sense. Don't do that. You might set up yourself and stuck. So plan and identify. You need 3 now, but say if you can come up with more than 3 possible logical points that will justify why this is so, as well as possible logical points to justify why this is not so. These are your reasons. When you're done brainstorm and come up with that, I'm not gonna lie, you might find that for one side, you can't come up with no views at all. That's fine. But make sure you have 3 on one side and make sure you're not contradicting yourself. And ensure that these points, these arguments, they are logical, meaning when you put it on paper, when you reason it out, it makes sense. Zin, what you're gonna do next, you are going to, after you identify your points, you're going to then write your introduction. Start off with a hook. The easiest hook you can start off with is a rhetorical question. Then give some context on the general topic, meaning give some background on it. Let them know that this issue actually exists. You know, it's argumentative writing. So let's say you're talking about abortion, for instance. They're not going to give anything on that, but let's say they're talking about abortion, for instance. You can tweak the definition of abortion to work in the favor of the arguments you are proposing. But you're going to tweak the definition in such a way that it's a source that proposed this definition and not you per se, because you want it to come off as sounding logical. All may I say is the information that you're putting in this essay, you have to make it up. But in making it up, it can't sound, enough to sound nonsensical, enough to sound foo-fool. It must sound logical and enough to sound far-fetched. It must be believable. And that's why you use your sources to enhance that credibility. Right? After you've provided your hook, your background information, and your thesis statement, which is the general idea, and your 3 reasons to support that idea, you move now to developing the first point that you mentioned, or the first reason you mentioned in your thesis statement. Begin with a topic sentence, which must start off with a transitional word or phrase. Don't say firstly, secondly, and lastly. Firstly, secondly, and third. You can say to start off with or to begin. To begin. Crime in youths is as a result of poor parenting because majority of parents, most parents are young and have not developed a mature frame of mind to be a parent. Something like that. That's a topic sentence. It includes a transitional phrase. It includes the main idea as well as the main point or the reason that you're developing. Where do you go from there? Still in that body paragraph, now you're going to explain what you mean. You're going to justify that to show how young children end up in crime because them parents young like them too. So you're going to provide an evidence, whether statistics, whether authority, something we want authority say, whether, and by authority I mean like a doctor, a minister of what, some minister, somebody who is credible to speak on that topic. So you wouldn't use Usain Bolt to as a source to talk about crime in youth and as a result of poor parenting, because I'm a sports expert. But you can use a psychologist, a child psychologist. You can use the Minister of National Security, for example, and you give the names of these persons. You'd state how long they have been in this position and then state what exactly pertaining to the point you're trying to make they have said, because you're providing support, you're providing evidence, you're justifying your argument. And you move on to your next body paragraph to develop the next point. Use your transitional phrase, furthermore, rather than saying secondly, and you have your topic sentence, then you provide the evidence, then you provide the supporting details, elaborate on it. and you present what we call a counter argument. Now, some persons state that would teach that a counter argument can come as a separate paragraph, which would leave you writing 6 paragraphs for your essay. You don't need that in your life right now. 5 paragraphs are more than enough. Your essay shouldn't be less than 5 paragraphs, and it shouldn't be more than 5 paragraphs. Your introduction, your 3 body paragraphs, which will each separately develop a separate point mentioned in your thesis, and your concluding paragraph, which basically summarizes the main points. Your concluding paragraph now, you're not going to present any new information. All you do is restate the main idea. You can say to sum up, or in closing, or in conclusion, or to conclude, poor parenting is a cause for youths partaking in criminal activities. And yet then you paraphrase the reasons why poor parenting, that show that poor parenting cause crime in youth to rise. And you close that paragraph now, you close the entire essay by providing a recommendation or a final thought, but do not include any new information. What you never say in the body of the essay, you can't put it in the conclusion. Now the counter argument, all you're doing is considering something that somebody would have said on the opposing side, on the other side, which is to work against, which is to go against what you are trying to prove. Consider it, but refute it. What I mean by that? Some might argue that parents should not be blamed for whatever actions their child carry out. But, so the but now is you counteracting that argument. Whether you're gonna say but, or you're gonna say however, and then you refute it by providing a stronger argument to rule out that point that your opponent would have mentioned. You provide that counter argument as a sentence in one of your paragraphs, one of your body paragraphs, but do not present the counter argument in a separate paragraph. That will make you end up with writing too much, and then remember you have other things to write. Okay, and remember to have your different paragraphs, and you can't go wrong. Plan. By planning, identify possible logical points or reasons that you can use, and don't just stick to one side alone. Find for both, and then you decide which one has the better points, and you choose that to write. Try not to contradict yourself in your argumentative essay, especially where the counter argument is concerned. Don't contradict yourself, meaning don't say, many might say that poor parenting should not be, parents should not be should not be held accountable for the actions of their child, because parents are because parents, let me see now, because parents not, parents don't know where their child is oftentimes. That don't make no sense. You're contradicting yourself there. So, because how are you gonna say they should not be held accountable then? Because, well, no, I said it wrong. So parents should not be held accountable for the actions of their child because parents parents know what their children do. Yeah, parents know what their children do 50% of the time. That don't make no sense. You contradict yourself there. So you work in favor of the opponent there. So because if they know what their child is doing 50% of the time, then the child shouldn't in on the wrongdoings. Then they're supposed to make sure that the child always do the right thing. Then you get what I'm saying? So try not, in presenting the counter argument, try not to contradict yourself. All right. Any questions? Any questions, students?
No,
No.
miss.
All right, so this actually concludes my lesson. I hope you found today's class beneficial. What I can say to you, I sent you the past paper. You have a long weekend. Practice answering the questions on that paper. Give yourself an advantage of going into the exam, having an idea. If practice writing an argumentative essay, practice writing a story, practice doing a summary. Look at the specimen paper. Use that because sometimes they repeat things from the specimen paper on the actual exam. Use the specimen paper as well. It has the answer there. It has the rubric for both paper 2 and paper 1. If you don't know what I'm talking about, download CSEC English A syllabi. It's a syllabi because it's a combination of literature and English, but you're going to look at the English one. It has the paper. It has a specimen paper. In addition to the specimen paper, there's the rubric that they use to mark. For paper 1 and 2, paper 1, the answer key is there. Practice, test yourself. You may never know what will be repeated. And 80% on paper 1, 80% of the items are repeated. For paper 1, for the reading comprehension, read the question, look at the options, then you go to the passage. If they give you a line of reference, read not just the line of reference, but read whatever is presented before, as well as what is presented after, and even leading up to the line of reference. Right? Read the item carefully. Even if you see a question that looks familiar, don't just jump and say, oh, remember this, the answer C. No, sometimes even though it's repeated, they rearrange the options, the answer options. So you have to read carefully. Sometimes they change a word in the question too. Sometimes they change the wording of the answer options. So pay attention. All right. Any questions?
No, miss.
All right. So I wish you guys all the best. I know you will do well. Don't forget what you have been taught by me or even your other teacher. And don't have any fear in your mind. Don't have any doubt. I pray that God will give you success. Enjoy the rest of your evening. All the best. Goodbye.
Bye, miss.
Bye-bye.
Bye, miss.
Bye.